Let's talk more about this by speaking to a legal practitioner, Aiboni, who is joining me in the studio to talk about the Armed Forces Remembrance Day. Thank you so much for joining us on TVC News this hour. Well, it's quite amazing that a lot of us really do not know the soldiers, the armed forces, the people in the armed forces who really laid down their lives to ensure the sovereignty of Nigeria and ensure that we sleep with our two eyes closed. What's the significance of today to you?
Well, I think today it goes beyond buying of an emblem and putting an emblem on a chest or laying of wreaths. I think the whole intention for us to stop one day and tell these committed men and women that all their training and every day of their life is to put themselves on harm's way, and it usually happens. So I think it's very significant, and it's the role of the army to keep security and to keep us going is very important. And I'm happy that we have a day that everybody stops to honor that their contributions to national development.
One key point that has actually struck the conversations across the media, across different places, where there's this conversation about the lives of the afterlives of the soldiers, is the welfare, the issue of the welfare and how their families have been catered to. Now, we saw what a woman said in that report that we took earlier on, where she says, once you lose your husband, you just have to sit up. Should it always be so? Is it that the government or whoever is responsible to ensuring that the lives of those who are left behind, the families, are well taken care of, are really not doing so?
Okay, well, I think for me, Lagos State government, the governor, I think it's a honorable thing. It's a drop in the ocean, 50 million to the Legion. It's significant. And I think everybody has a part to play with regards to the welfare of soldiers. Now, soldiers, they have an organization, association called the Nigerian Legion. So from as little as you have a security guard, you get the Legion to provide it for you. That kind of activity supports the soldiers that when they leave. Issue as you see them pass, you buy an emblem for as little as 1,000, 2,000 naira. It supports. So I think for me, I think there's a need to have a more structural way to support the soldiers, because the Nigerian Army, we all know that the funding for the Nigerian Army, they are fighting on all fronts in as we speak. Apart from their traditional role is to protect us against external aggression, but at this moment the army are having battles at all fronts. So operationally, you can understand why the chief of army staff or commandants of army formations will have spare more time on the men that are actually having operations. So I think also as society, we should learn to find a way, an institutional way, not just an ad hoc way of giving grants, to find an ad hoc institutional way to support and reintegrate the army when they leave service.
But we see how some of our soldiers, the way they do outside of the country, whenever they go for peacekeeping, to ensure that things are done right, and they get to do it well. But back here home, I've got friends in the Nigerian military who would say that they're really not giving the latest equipment. They're really not giving what they are supposed to be giving to prosecute some of this war against the Boko Haram and some of the bandits. So what would you say in this regard? Because this is a country where we are still faced with security challenges, front and back.
Yeah. Well, for soldiers who are serving in the army, I think the army institution is still part of Nigeria, and any sector, health, judiciary, we all have the issues of lack of proper funding and issues. So I think the military, in terms of proportion of the portion, still gets a fair share, but that fair share is still a far cry from what is needed to provide a 21st century army. So I think for that discussion, I think it still goes back to our whole national question, to find a way that we redefine our whole national question so that all our institutions can move on. So I think that whole idea of not getting enough funding is something that is across all the institutions. The army should find a way to reinvent itself, and we all should support them because of the role that the army plays for our security and peace.
Well, before I let you go, let me ask you this question. It's actually a question that really, directly on our street. Sometimes if you watch the social media, you see what happens in the US, for instance, in the UK, where a soldier might be boarding a plane or a train, and people in that train will stand up, clap for the soldier, try to make the person feel welcome. Somebody might even try to create a space, a room for the soldier to sit on. But here in Nigeria, it looks like some of these of our military guys, they want to force it. They get on the road, they ensure that you respect them by all means. Is there something? Is that missing link we are really not getting?
Well, for me, even at the risk of sounding politically incorrect, I think the military in Nigeria should understand why civilian population does not give them that same kind of respect. Now, from the earliest days, the militaries have left their traditional roles and taken over government. So they have taken over government by brute force, suspended legislators, suspended judges, and ruled the country by decrees. So you can't, the emotions you have towards a soldier is not that same kind of emotion that an American will have to a soldier, because that is the sentiment. So the soldiers should understand that their history and their involvement in politics has put them in the fray, and they cannot enforce that kind of reaction from and respect from the civilian population.
But all the same, they're still worthy of respect, and that's the reason we're remembering them today, those fallen heroes. Thank you so much for speaking to us on TVC News. Legal practitioner Sam Aiboni, thank you so much for
Thank you very much. That was nice to be here.